And we're recording.
Okay.
Hey everyone, I'm Brad Padgett. I'm here today with Savannah Mobley. She is 21 years old, and we're going to have a counseling session with her and just talk about some of the stuff that's going on with her life. So, go ahead, Savannah.
Okay, so this is just one problem I have. Like, me and my stepdad just really don't get along that well. And sometimes we do, but sometimes we don't. And it's just really hard because I live at home and I go to college. And it's hard to, like, live there and just the relationship just isn't there, I guess. And he's been my stepdad ever since I was like 4 years old. And so he's like my real dad, and he really does act like my real dad. Like, he provides for me and everything, but I just, like, it's hard to get along with him because he complains about everything I do, no matter what I do. And, like, I could do everything, like, I could clean the whole house and something would still be wrong. And then, like, he tells me that I just take advantage of everything and that I just don't appreciate anything. And, like, I don't know, sometimes I can understand, like, I do underappreciate the things that I have. But, like, it just gets aggravating sometimes because I feel like I can never do enough. And I just really want to move out, but I can't because of financial situations. And I have struggled with holding my tongue sometimes because, like, he can always say what he wants to say, but if I ever say anything, I'm being disrespectful if I ever say anything back. And sometimes I do say stuff back, and I guess I am disrespectful at times, but it's just hard because I'm a person just like everybody else, and, like, people should be respected, and I feel like that's not happening in my situation.
Now, one of the things you said earlier was that the relationship between you and him isn't a true, like, father-daughter relationship, where it's not like the dynamic of that.
Yeah.
What, to you, what makes you feel that it's not?
Well, I don't know, like, just that closeness that, where you have, like, daddy's little girl or something like that. Like, that's just not a thing for me because we never really were close. And, like, he's just a real, like, a strong, like, hard, I guess, like, tough love. And, like, you would swear he'd be in the military, but he never was. But, like, I don't know, if I ever dress up, like, really, really pretty or something like that, like, he doesn't ever say, oh, baby, you just look so pretty or something like that. Like, he's just like, what in the world do you have on? Or, and he just always has something sarcastic to say. And so it's not, I don't know, I guess it's gotten better, like, over the years, but, like, it's just never that, like, love and compassion. It's just, like, financially I'm provided for, and I know that he cares about me and he loves me in that aspect because, like, if I ever need anything, like, he'll provide for it. But I just, as far as, like, the love and, like, compassionate fatherly type, it's just not there.
Now, what about your mom?
Like, mama, she's just completely, she makes up for it. Like, she is really the loving person. Like, I probably don't ever go a day without talking to her on the phone or her telling me that she loves me. And, like, so that's really been made up for there, which is why I feel like I can still do that with other people and tell them, like, I love them and, like, just be a real compassionate and, like, loving person, but not from him, I guess.
So although you don't receive, or you feel like you don't receive that same kind of love and compassion from him, you are still able to give compassion and love to others from being displayed from your mom.
Yeah.
So, what are some ways you actually show others love and affection?
I don't know. Well, like, I'm an early childhood education major, so it's like, I know that, like, God's called me to work with kids just because I have a love and compassion for them, and just looking at their home life, like, it breaks my heart whenever I see that if they're not being loved, like, I can relate to that with them not being shown love, I guess, and like an affectionate type of love. And, like, that's what makes me want to just tell them every day, like, I love you, like, you're important and you matter, and you can make something out of yourself one day. And, like, it just makes me feel better whenever I can, like, tell them that, because I know that if I can make them believe that, maybe they can love other people too.
Now you were saying from their home life and their perspective of not seeing love and not feeling that with your stepdad in his upbringing, was his parents very affectionate in that aspect, or do you know?
No, they really weren't. My grandparents, like my grandma, she was more affectionate toward me. I guess it's just because it's the motherly type, but like his dad actually was very, very stern, and he actually had some really bad home life situations. When he was 10 years old, his dad actually died by suicide, and so he never really had a dad growing up. He had to rely on other men in his life to really step up to that plate. And she got remarried not a few years, like pretty much when he was grown, she got remarried. So he really never had like that at-home fatherly type. He always had to step up, and he had to provide, and he had to do stuff because he had a mom and a younger sister to look after. And that's probably why he just never, I don't know.
So he had to step into a role as a father figure way ahead of his time with his younger siblings, and also take on a larger portion of maturity than what normal kids are having to face today.
Yeah.
But you also said the affection aspect, it's not there. How affectionate are you with him?
Oh, I don't show it at all. Like, just the only time, like growing up, I remember Mama would have to tell me like, go give him a hug or go tell him you love him or something like that. Just because like he would mention to her that he didn't feel like I appreciated anything, or that I didn't care about him or something like that. Just because. I mean, I just felt weird. Like if I ever went up to him and I just gave him a hug and just told him I loved him, like, and even now it still feels weird. Like I can tell him like I love you, like whenever we're getting off the phone every now and then, like love you, bye. But even then, it's super super quick, and it's never a sit down like, I really love you and I care about you, and like it's just a very quick love you, bye. And with my real dad, like he never provided for me as far as child support went, or as far as like just financially, but every time I would go and visit him, he would sit down with me and he'd say like, I love you with my whole heart, and I, like nothing could ever change that. And just like I never got that from my stepdad. I always got it from my real dad.
So kind of in that aspect, it was kind of like a forced love, or a kind of a more everyday, we take advantage of love, and we just say, oh, I love you, bye.
Yeah.
On the phone, that kind of thing. Well, you said it a couple of times also, providing financially for you in those kind of aspects. Is that something that he does out of just generosity, or is it more so of a hassle?
No, I don't think it's a hassle. Like, I think that he does it because he knows that he's my dad, and that he needs to do that because, like, he loves me and he wants the best for me. And I have no doubt that he wants anything less than the best, because he really does. He tries to teach me lessons about like how I use money, but sometimes it just comes about in the wrong way, I guess. But he does, like, he's the one paying for most of my college, and and he doesn't like he complains about it, but like he knows that I need that because like he cares about me and he wants me to have a good life. But I guess it just like, I guess I would complain too if I had to give away like thousands of dollars for somebody else to go and have to like learn and make a life. But I don't know, that's the one thing that like just bothers me, because like if he gives me money, like one time he had to pay about $1,400 to get my car fixed. Well, I paid him back half of it, and at the time he's like, well, that's what I do, like I'm your dad, like I'm supposed to do that, I'm supposed to help you, and sometimes stuff like that happens. But then like later on, if I wouldn't do something at the house I was supposed to do, or if something was lacking as far as the house was getting messy or something, that's when he would throw up like, well, you just don't appreciate anything, and you have more than what most kids have. And it's just like, it's okay at first because he knows that that's what it's supposed to be done, but then I feel like I'm taking advantage of them because he always throws that up all the time.
So in that aspect, with what I guess from the viewpoint of his perspective is, we're providing for you, we're doing all this for you, plus giving you an education and providing you a place to stay and all these things, that in which there, a lot of kids don't have what a lot of us do have here in America. But through all that, I guess he's seeing the aspect of, when looking at it, it's more of an unappreciative tone from his perspective.
Yeah.
Whereas you were telling me earlier that like you do clean the house, you do all this other stuff, and that's where that underappreciation you feel is lacking. And then from his perspective as well, he may not ever have seen that as a child. He may not ever have witnessed that aspect because he didn't have anyone there to tell him, hey, you did a good job of this, or I'm proud of you through this aspect. I have a little girl that is very dear to my heart, and through that, every little detail, every little thing that she does, I like to encourage her in that, because I want her to be a strong, confident woman one day. And from what you were telling me, that you're not getting that reassurance. You're not receiving that admiration of, hey, you're doing a good job, I'm proud of you, you look beautiful today, all of these things. But one thing that you said too, that do you see him as a dad?
Yeah.
So, and in that, a fatherly love is something that is a very special bond that not everybody gets to have. Luckily, as a lot of us for Christians, we get that second opportunity through Christ, which is actually probably the best example of a fatherly bond, because they never leave us or never forsake us. But in that aspect, our humanly fathers can let us down because we want to hold them to such a high standard in our own minds. We want to put them to a perspective of, well, Jenny's dad loves her, does all this stuff, gives her words of affirmation, does all these things. But within all that, we also have to look at, is this the kind of person that that person is? And like, for instance, for my dad and I, we don't really say I love you that much. It's kind of just a known thing. Which between fathers and sons, I think that's something different on a perspective, because we're told to be these strong, confident guys that we don't have to tell I love you to other guys. Now, I tell my wife and I tell my mom all the time that I love them. But there's been times before, even though I've been on the phone, I say, I love you, bye. And I hang up and I'm like, did I just say that to my dad? Like, it's kind of that question. And my wife, she'll tell me, she was like, yeah, you just said that. That sounds kind of weird. But in that perspective, I know that my dad loves me. I know that he's going to provide for me. I know that he cares about me. He cares about my family. He cares deeply about my mom. But the way that he shows his love isn't necessarily verbally. And sometimes when he does make comments about certain things that I maybe didn't do right when I was living at home, or do something right, I kind of felt as though it was like kind of being like a personal attack. And also being just like, I'm never going to be good enough in your eyes. But you also said that you mentioned your real dad, and him being that and loving you is a true love, even though hasn't been able to financially provide for you. But is that something that is important to you? Is being that the daddy's little girl, being that little star in his eye? Is that something that is meaningful?
Like, yeah, I guess. I mean, I'm 21 now, so I've pretty much lived my younger life not really doing that. Like, but if I ever mention it to him, like, if I say, you know, you should be proud of me or something like that, that I did something, if I point it out, he will soften a little bit his heart, and he'll say, well, I am proud of you. He said, I'm proud of everything. I tell people all the time at work how good you're doing, and you know, how you got you a degree, and you know, but it's like I have to point it out first. first. Like, he never makes the effort to say something first. And like I said, it's gotten better, like, as I've gotten older, I guess. But just growing up, like, it just really wasn't like that. And like, I didn't turn out bad. I mean, I turned out fine, at least I think so. But, I don't know, I guess it is important, but.
Well, and the reason I was asking that is because that's something that we put a human label on. That's something that we're emphasizing to the point that I need to feel that in order to have this accomplishment in my life, or in order to fit that need or that itch. It's something similar to what a drug would be. And not to say that a love should be a drug, but a lot of times we look for certain identities in love to be those key aspects in, I have to have somebody love me. When all along, you have a Father that does love you. And through Him, no matter what we do, we'll never disappoint Him. We'll never be left abandoned or astray or anything in that manner. But yet we don't comfort that need, or we don't comfort that desire that we should feel from Christ. But you also said something about feeling stuck. In that, I know you said it was something to do with some financial aspects, but you do work, you do go to school full time, and it is a lot of different perspectives in looking at a college student's life in comparison to someone that's out of college, that has a full-time job where they're making money. But within that, are you feeling stuck financially, purpose, or emotional, or both?
I don't know. Sometimes I just feel like I just want to be out just so that I can not have to deal with, like, someone just nagging at me all the time. And I know that sounds like an immature word, but just really, like, I would like to be able to move out and to not have to worry about not doing enough. Like, I can take care of a house and I can take care of cleaning and do what I'm supposed to do because I'm grown. But, like, I don't know, I just feel like when I'm there, I feel like I'm a 15-year-old all the time because I feel like I'm getting told what to do and I feel like I'm dumb because, like, he just tells me everything I do wrong. And so it's just like, I feel like it's not helping me grow and be a mature adult. I know that sounds bad, but I mean, that is. I mean, it makes me feel like I'm dumb. And then, like, financially, I can't move out because we live so far away from town. And so all my money's going toward food and going toward gas. And, like, if I want to do anything extra and actually have a social life as a college student, like, I pay for that. And I don't ever ask my parents for money because, I mean, what they pay for is my insurance on my car and just if I go home and I use the house for something. And, like, the car was free because it was paid off, and they still wanted me to pay $1,000 for it, but I can't do that, and I don't want to do that because it's not a good car. It gets me from point A to point B, but it's just not a good car. And so I just feel like I'm thankful for everything, but I feel like I just feel like I'm stuck as far as financially and I guess emotionally. So I guess both.
And one other thing that we were talking about earlier was the stress aspect of living at home, with also going to school full time and working a full-time job as a college student and working what they'll allow you to work as a college student for full time, and then trying to do all the stuff that you're doing. The stress, you feel overwhelmed with everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's really stressful because, like, I even started working with, Victory Student Ministries, and so now I have that. And before, he doesn't even really think about the spiritual aspect of it. Like, when I told him about getting a second job, he was just like, well, yeah, you can do that. Because when I was in college, which he didn't go to full college, he went to a technical school for electrician. But like he said, yeah, that won't hurt you. You can get 2 jobs, and like he doesn't even. And if I complain about the stress, like he never empathizes with me. Like he'll just be like, yeah, well, this is what I'm going through. Like he never even says, well, I'm sorry you're going through that. He'll just revert it back to him and what he's having to do at work or something stressful that he's going through. And then he'll just follow up with, that's just a part of life. You need to just pretty much suck it up and get over it. So.
Well, and I know where he's coming from in that perspective as well, because within that, when he's telling you, he's relating it to show you that, hey, everybody deals with stress differently, but this is what I'm dealing with. This is the stress I'm having to deal with at work and things like that. But it's not getting me down. I still can move on even though I have stress in my life. And I think that's hard for a lot of people to understand, because when they look at stress, they look at themselves and then they look at other people in their life, and it's that concept of the grass is greener on the other side. Because you look at those type people and you're like, well, they have all this, they have brand new cars, they have all this stuff, but we don't know what they had to sacrifice to get to that point. We don't know how much debt they're in, how much any of the stuff that relates that would give us stress, they could be dealing with that stress. It just might be they handle it differently. But in taking that in as a whole viewpoint, feeling appreciated is something that we should have an understanding of as well, that not everything we do in life we're going to gain appreciation from. Like, we're not going to gain satisfaction from everything we do. Some things in life we have to do them just because we have to do them. You talked about school. Some people love going to school. They absolutely love it. They go to school every day if they could. Some people hate school just because they're not good students. I mean, they understand all the principles and everything behind it, but they're not good fundamental students, like staying on task, doing all this stuff. But they know the material. They know all of that. It just comes natural to them. And one of the things that you said earlier too was about not being able to hold your tongue, just like snapping back at them, like slow to anger and slow to speak. Well, within that, what comes to mind with you saying something? Like, what is something you lash out at?
Like when he uses sarcasm, and it's just, I don't know. I can't right now on the spot. Like, I can't think of a certain instance, but it's just like if I say something or do something, like just sometimes like when I speak, if it's not something clear and something spoken to where he doesn't understand my question that I'm asking, like he'll tell me that I don't know how to speak and that I need to learn how to speak, and like he'll just say something sarcastic, and it's so hard for me to like not say something and just make like a real short remark back. A couple nights ago, we were sitting there and he asked me if I voted, and I said no, because I couldn't make it all the way back to Berrien County, then go all the way back to Tiff County, and then come all the way back to Berrien where we live. And then he just pretty much said I was dumb, and I was just like, yeah, okay, I'm dumb, you're right, I'm wrong. And then like that just starts arguments sometimes, because I always have something like quick to say because I'm just tired of hearing it sometimes. And I know that's bad, but that's bad for me because I need to learn how to be respectful. But it's really hard to respect someone who doesn't respect you, if that makes sense.
I understand where you're coming from in that perspective, because in working with youth and things and seeing that we give a lot of respect before it's ever given back to us. We try to really set the precedent for them. This is how respect is shown. This is how it's done. But you have to be willing and patient to wait on those things. And I think that's where sometimes the slip of the tongue can get us, because in those small moments of rash decisioning and the small moments of just brief,
Mhm.
where you just want to lash out and just say, just hear me for what I have to say. And don't think everything should be sarcastic. But now, I've known you for a little over, 5 months, 6 months now, and we've become very good friends. But through that, we have a lot of fun joking with each other and those kind of things. But how do you handle sarcasm outside of your family versus inside of your family?
Well, like that's the thing. Like his sarcasm isn't joking sarcasm. Like it's always like serious, and I can handle like joking sarcasm pretty much all the time from other people because I just know we're just kidding and that it's just all in good fun, and so I can handle that. But it's just when you're just doing it to intentionally like get on somebody's nerves or like hurt their feelings, and it's just like because I'm not a mean person. Like I don't just intentionally say stuff to people to like put them down, and because I know like how that makes me feel when somebody does that to me, and so I feel like that's how I handle it. It's okay.
And then, well, in contrast to what about other people in your family as well? Do you feel that their criticism to you is something based off of experience, or is it something based off of kind of an impulsive manner?
I don't really know because I honestly don't talk to anybody in my family except for maybe my dad. I mean my mom, but like she's not always sarcastic. Like we just have a really good relationship. But like I mean our family just isn't big and it's not close, and like on Christmas it's just us. It's just me and Ronald and Mama. On Thanksgiving it's just us three too, and so like I don't really talk to any of my family.
So that disconnect has set, the disconnect of not being involved with them has also set somewhat of a precedent in that disconnect from all those things, all the attention and love and all that kind of stuff as well. One of the things that I think that is a very reassuring aspect in my life is because in First Peter is actually telling us that God's actually telling us that if we call on Him with any of our questions, any of our desires, He will answer it. The only problem is He doesn't say when He will answer it in. A lot of times we call on God and we say, God, I want this right now. And that's not always God's timing for our life. And I think sometimes God puts us in situations with people around us that we're kind of like a piece of fine iron, that we're being shaped and molded by those people because God knows future, you're going to need this at some point in your life down the road. Mm-hmm. You're going to need to know that discipline from this aspect of your life because one day this person is going to be gone. But what I have in store for you in the future is what this person is shaping you and molding you for. So that tough love that Ronald's given you, that all that stuff, one day you might have to use that on something. One day you might have to sit down and say, okay, where is this leading me? What am I going to in this? And sometimes it's tough. Sometimes it's very tough because we want to look at things from our point of view, our perspective, and not God's perspective. And I've said this several times. When we look at life, we're looking at life in a direction looking straight forward. We can't see the turns in the road or anything until we get there. Whereas God is looking at it from a downward perspective or from an upward perspective looking down. And He gets to see every obstacle like Google Earth. He gets to see, oh, this road's under construction. There's a wreck. Let me divert you to over here. Let me do all these things. And the hard part is we just don't trust in God all the time and know His will and His purpose for our life because we're so eager to move past this certain point in our life. We're so eager to just say, okay, God, I'm done with this. I'm ready to move on. Let's just move on as fast as we can. And I've done that before. I've done it in friendships before. I've done it with relationships, with family. And looking back at that, you do regret it because you only take it for its face value. You don't go any deeper than that. But one thing that I learned just after I moved out of my parents' house was the fact they looked at me in a completely different manner once I did that. And I actually moved here to our family farm and lived in a mobile home, and then we built our house. But within that, they encouraged me more after I moved out of their house than they did while I lived with them. I think I grew closer to my dad once I was actually moved out of his house, because the part was, you're now an adult. You're now equal to me in being able to provide for yourself, do all these things. And I moved out at 17. So it was a lot different for me in that perspective, because I took on a huge role in trying to be so determined to prove him wrong that it didn't matter what I had to do, I was going to do it. And it meant some nights that I came home from school and from work, and I sat in my mobile home, and I didn't turn the lights on or anything because I was afraid I was going to electricity bill up too high. And I never wanted to ask them for money because I wanted to prove to them so badly that I could do it without their help. But in all actuality, they were wanting to help me even more after I moved out, because they understood the struggles that I would face. They understood all those things. But the communication levels between me and my dad weren't what they needed to be. Me and my mom, I could go to my mom with anything. I could sit down with her. I could tell her whatever I needed to tell her, and she would give me motherly advice of, oh, this is what I think you should do. But you need to go ask your dad, or you need to talk with your dad. Or she would do these things, and I would be like, I really don't want to talk to him about it. I mean, I would dread trying to explain my emotions to my father because I felt that he really just didn't care. And come to find out afterwards, he actually paid a lot more attention to what I ever thought he did. Now, it's also a little ironic in this situation because I knew Ronald before I knew Savannah. And through my dad's business, I've got to be around Ronald and things for almost 6 to 7 years. So I understand Ronald's dry humor. It is very dry.
It's very dry.
I understand that aspect of him, but I never knew Savannah was his daughter, but I've always heard about Savannah's things, about what she's done and those kind of things and what she's accomplished. And those are the things that you don't get to see. One of the things that irritated me more than anything was when my dad would introduce me to somebody, he would say, "That's my boy." And I was like, "Dad, I have a name. Mm-hmm. I want them to know me. I don't want them to know me because of you." And I wanted to make an image of myself. I wanted them to relate to me based off of what I could be, not from the shadows of my parents. And in all actuality, looking back now, I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I could thank my parents in, because they showed me what my name meant. They showed me what to be proud of based on what's inside of me, not what people say to me. Not everybody's going to like me. Not everybody's going to like you. But regardless of what we do in life, we're not here to be self-pity on ourselves and look around and say, oh, this is in it for me, or I'm in this for me. I figured out that by doing that, I put myself in a worse situation and even further behind the 8 ball when I do that. When I go into something with a true purpose, it never seems to fail that God shows up and shows out even more than I would ever think. Because I'm relying on Him a lot more than I am myself. And I think the greatest aspect of that is just knowing that I have a Father that, regardless of my own thinking, constantly loves me. Is constantly sending down His mercy and grace on me. And that through it all, it's His will. And He wants to see me succeed through that. And that He's placed this earthly Father here to help be that supportive structure. Mm-hmm. Although Ronald may not say it, I know for a fact that He wants to see you succeed. I know that He doesn't want to see you struggle. He doesn't want to see you hurt. He doesn't want to see you in those situations. Mm-hmm. Because as a dad, in which you see Him as a dad, you're still His daughter. And I guarantee you, if any guy was to ever hurt you, he would say something about it to him. Or voice his opinion about it.
Yeah, he has.
And with all those things, that's love. Us guys just don't do a great job of explaining it or showing it. And we have a tough time with it because sometimes we bottle up our emotions and we allow that to put a precedent on things because we can't show you our true emotions. Yeah. Because we don't want to seem weak in your eyes. But because we do that, sometimes it makes you bottle up yours. So Savannah's going to be with us for the next 3 videos as well as we go through this process of counseling. We're going to talk about a couple of different things that are be coming up in our life and trying to relate them all together and tie them back in and just let her know that she's loved, that she's cared about, and that she still has a place in God's kingdom regardless of whatever struggle she's facing, because God doesn't make trash. And through all of that, all of us are made in God's unique image and purpose, and that we're the own unique piece of a puzzle that only God can put together, and without one piece, everything's missing. So come back and join us next week as we continue to counsel with Savannah, and thank you so much for being here, and we look forward to continue going.